So, Bill Fichtner, you are a Western New York native, right? But you went to SUNY Brockport and you actually studied criminal justice, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so you've got to explain to myself and our viewers how you made the transition into this illustrious film career.
Well, I started off at Farmingdale, SUNY Farmingdale, which is now a four-year school. At the time, it was a two-year school. So I went there to get an associate's. And, you know, after 2 years of living in the dorm at Farmingdale, I was like, this can't end. I have to continue.
This isn't
I only had, the only places you could get a criminal justice bachelor's were Buff State at the time, Utica, or Brockport. Well, I kind of liked being away from home. Utica was not an option. No offense, Utica. So it was Brockport. And long story short, I was a junior, and first week of classes, fall semester, junior year, I got a call from the admissions counselor that said, you're missing a fine arts course. I'm like, what's a fine arts course? They said, a music class, a theater class. I'm like, wow. So I literally, I think I picked an improv class because it wasn't too early.
Yeah.
By junior year, it's like, no, I don't do 8 a.m. classes. It was like a 12 or 2 in the afternoon class, improv. So I took that, and I was like, wow. And believe me, in high school, Maryville High School, I graduated in Cheektowaga, class of 74. I'm not so sure I ever saw like a school play. We usually snuck out the back and went and played hockey. But I took this improv class, and I was like, this is improvisation, and, you know, with other actors. And I loved it. I had a teacher that said to me one day after class, literally sat me down and said, you really should do this. And I took some other classes, and still never thinking that I'm going to change the direction I'm going to go in. And then I graduated, and here I am with my diploma, sitting there on graduation day thinking, nah, I'm not so sure life is going this way. And then I moved to New York.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the rest is history.
A lot of waiting tables is what it was.
Well, no, that's a good point, because listen, there's a huge film community here in Buffalo and
Sure.
Western New York. So what is your advice to people that are here and really want to make it in Hollywood?
You know, yes, and there's always been a theater scene in Buffalo, and it's growing, and I love the fact that it maintains itself, and you know, I know when I moved to New York, I was told several times, if there's anything else you want to do it, because it's really,
yeah.
You know, if your heart and soul is not 100%, I mean, I've met people that have said to me, you know, who I took acting classes with in my early 20s, and I run into them, you know, a few years later, and they're like, well, I'm doing this now. It's kind of a backup, and it's hard to have a backup in this business. You know, you're all heart and soul, or you're not. And if you really want a shot at it, I think you got to jump off the 10-meter platform and hang in there. And if you feel like you're being fulfilled, your heart and your craft and everything right here, God bless you. If you feel like it needs to be nurtured somewhere else, then go.
Absolutely. You're going to be told a lot of no's, right?
It's all about no's.
Mm-hmm.
And I really mean that. I mean, I have friends that, you know, something doesn't work out with their job, and I get, especially when I was younger, and, you know, I get it, and they'd be devastated of hearing no. I hear no, you know, especially in my 20s and 30s and 40s, I hear no every week.
Yeah.
Hey, how'd that thing work out that I auditioned for? No. You know, it still happens, you know, you hear no. It's interesting as I get older, my downtime, you know, when you're in your mid-20s and you hear no on something you really want to work out, you know, it could bum you out for a week or two. You know, as time goes on, now if things don't work out, you know, my downtime is, you know, somewhere between like 2 and 5 minutes. You know, it's like, such is life, you know, it wasn't meant to be.
You just got to keep rolling with the
Just
punches.
got to keep going.
Now, we have to know what it was like working with the late Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight.
Well, Chris Nolan, who directed The Dark Knight and many other incredible films, he's good friends with a friend of mine. He called a friend of mine and said, I'm interested in having Bill play this part of the beginning of the film. It's only a one-scene part, but he's the right kind of guy. So I had a conversation with him, went to Chicago. I believe it was the first day of principal photography. It was also the first time that I think that an IMAX camera was used to shoot a theatrical scene, which is a big box of a camera. But the thing that I will never forget was I'd never met Heath before. I'm such a fan of actors that are, people ask me, you got a favorite actor? No, it's hundreds. I love so many actors. But I really love when people really go after a character and really find it and find the rhythm and the look and the voice and everything. And I remember when Heath Ledger walked on set to shoot the first scene we were doing, and we did one rehearsal, and I thought to myself, wow, that's exceptional. I love what this guy's doing right now. I just thought he was like, wow. And he really was. It was that role that he took that role and just exploded.
Absolutely. Now you have a new film that's being released. Can you tell us about that?
It's called Hypnotic, and Robert Rodriguez directed it, who for many people, me being included, has always been a bit of a bucket list thing to work with him, because he's just an amazing director, and his style and his vision. And I spoke to Robert a couple of years ago after I read the script, and he invited me to come and do it. And so we shot it, almost 2 years ago this fall. But it finally came out, and I worked with Ben Affleck on it, who I worked on in Armageddon. And but most of all, the experience, I'll remember it for working with Robert and shooting it in Austin, which is one of my favorite towns in America.
Besides Buffalo.
Oh, no, Buffalo is, I don't even put Buffalo on the list. It's like there's Buffalo, and then let's talk about everybody else.
Okay, but speaking of your love for Buffalo, you actually skipped, I believe, the premiere, right, to be at the 514 Remembrance events this weekend.
Yeah, well, there were some events in LA for the film, not an official premiere, but there was a big screening. There was a cast and crew thing in that, and I said, I'm not going to be able to make it, folks, because this is my home, and this is where I wanted to be. When I knew that this event was going to be here, I just made sure that this is where I was going to be.
What does it mean to you to come back and support your community, having the platform that you have? It's a big deal seeing a face like you, a success story out of Buffalo, back here, especially in a time where the community is really trying to rally together.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't look at it that way, and I just feel that being here is that I'm just like every other Buffalonian, and that was devastated by what happened a year ago, and just to be back here, and to be at the Tops Market Sunday afternoon, and to be at the church service that night, and to be at the park on Saturday afternoon, which was a celebration and remembrance, and so many wonderful people were there, and I'm just glad that I just didn't want to be anywhere else but Buffalo.
Absolutely. That's where your heart is. Now, you have done several other mediums, from acting to directing, voice acting, even video games. What do you see for your future?
Who knows what's coming? I mean, it's one of those things, talk about like hearing no. You never know. I will tell you this. I always loved doing films. Good friends of mine that wrote and directed a film last year, a comedy called French Girl, that's coming out this fall. They wrote a new pilot, and I love when friends call up and they're like, "Hey, Bill, we got this part for you. You're gonna love this stuff. We don't have any money." No, like no money. And I'm like, all right, let me read it. And I read it, and I'm like, I'm in. So I'm gonna work on that in early August. But I think, the most exciting thing that I'm really looking forward to and focusing on, I made a feature film that I co-wrote and produced and directed and shot most of it here in Buffalo, with the help of Buffalo and our incredible mayor, Byron Brown, and the film commission here, Tim Clark, and Mark Poloncarz. And I have to name these people because, they're big supportive, and State Senator Kennedy. These are the people that really, went to Albany and fought to have this tax incentive happen in upstate New York. It's going to make a difference. It is making a difference. And I shot a film here 5 years ago called Cold Brook. And since then, since that film was finished, I've been working on a new one. And, you know, in a perfect world, I'm back in Buffalo next summer shooting it. Now, a lot of miracles have to happen with an indie film. You usually need somewhere between 16 and 18 miracles. I figured that out. So I have a couple of them right now, but I'm putting it together, and more than anything else, that's what I would like to see happen next in my life.
Absolutely.
I want to shoot that film.
We can't wait to see it. We're putting out the good juju.
Put it out
all
there.
All the
Put it out
miracles to
there.
come true. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Great to see you again.